Sports Opinion, the weekly sports talk show on Channel 18. That is Public Access TV. My name's Dirk Keller. This guy's name is Bob Boyd.
Hi, guys.
This is Pat White. And, of course, Earl Murphy.
Earl.
Nice to have you back, Bob.
Thank you.
And we're going to have to say goodbye to Bat after this show. So we're going to make it a good one. Before we get started, before the show began, we were chatting about some of the folks from the Iowa City community who have recently passed. Tom Summey, Tom Hoogerwerf, Mrs. Berry.
Mary Berry.
Jim Jensen's mother.
Yep. And then a fellow that worked for me at City Electric for 33 years, Don Kessler, mayor of West Branch, passed away last Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Died in his sleep.
All big sports fans.
That's
yeah.
Well,
that's 6 friends of ours in 2 weeks.
It's not a good sign, is it?
No,
it isn't.
You know how they say those things run in threes? Well, after we got through the first 3, we'd say, well, that's over with, and then boom, boom, boom.
Well,
another trifecta there.
We lost another friend of the show this past weekend. Tenafik died. Tom, you talk about a loyal Hawkeye.
Yeah.
He was the drum major for the Hawkeye marching band the last time the Hawks won the Rose Bowl.
Oh, wow.
And to sit and listen to him tell stories about the train ride to Pasadena.
1959, Murph.
Yeah.
You know, Tom just bled black and gold. And I'm honored to have called him friend. He and his wife Betsy died in October of 2011.
How old was he?
I think Tom was about 77.
Oh, my, that's
Too young.
That's very young. Yeah.
He, I knew something was up. I didn't see him after Mass at St. Mary's. He was always at the 11:30, and we'd walk and talk on the way out. And it's one of those deals you regret because, the kids are always impatient. They don't want to stop and talk.
Yeah.
And, they want to get the donuts or breakfast or whatever. And I just feel regretful that I didn't stop and spend more time with him. Tom was one of those guys who always had a smile on his face and was always willing to talk about the Hawkeyes with me. And he also was a fan of Sports Opinion and would often tell me how much he liked a particular show, particular subject that we discussed, and was glad that we would bring something up and air it.
Yes.
And I just want to say that, as well as all the other Tom Summey, Tom Hoogerwerf, Mrs. Berry, Mrs. Jensen, they're all going to be missed.
Well, another one, too, Bonnie Power. My son went all through school with Dan.
She watched the show.
Yeah, Bonnie. Veronica, as she was known, but
I think we had
great lady. Worked at Merritt Electric and Shea Electric for years. Yep.
One of the things that this is a good point for me to interject. You mentioned this is my last show. I've been pinch hitting while he's been gone, and with the advent of spring, I need to get out and start pruning and getting my garden cleaned up.
I think Bud's been pinch hitting for you.
I have really
that's beside the point.
enjoyed being here. So thank you guys. But the point I was going to make is, I've been on TV. I'm used to being recognized, but it just absolutely always amazes me the number of people who stop me and say they watch sports and
it is surprising.
If you're at the arena, every time it's anywhere from 5 to 10 people who say something about the last show, and always a couple in the Hy-Vee. It's just you have a really loyal, interesting viewership. Well, I don't know that. I don't know how
loyal
Hawkeyes.
Well, I will continue to post our shows on your Facebook page so you can watch.
Yeah.
And Pat, I want you to know that I'm just going to speak for everybody here for a minute. You speak so well and so knowledgeably, not just on Iowa women's basketball, but on all facets of Hawkeye sports, and it's just a treat to have you on the show. And you will be back.
Absolutely.
Can't wait.
You will be back, and we're going to miss you while you're gone, Pat.
And you know who else is going to be back? The Hawkeyes.
Yeah, we got to be
back. We had a weekend from hell.
Oh, man.
And Nebraska had a lot to do with that, unfortunately, for both the men's basketball team. The men blew a 19-point lead in the first half and exhibited some real, I guess, poor decision-making in the second half and just let a really substandard Nebraska team back in.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
I got to tell you guys, I was listening to it on the radio, and I was feeling really good at halftime. We're up 41 to 26.
Yeah. Same here.
I went upstairs to get a can of pop, and I got talking to my wife, and I came back. 9 minutes left, and I went, what? The score is what? And I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, listen to the rest of the game. We all know what happened, but that might have been the most painful loss for that coaching staff and the team, because we just and look what Wisconsin did to Nebraska last night. They beat them by 30 points.
Now, it was at Madison.
Yeah, but they killed them.
I'd be willing to bet that when Nebraska comes here for the last home game of the year, that we're going to beat them substantially.
We're going to get them. No
Remember
doubt.
how bad after Nebraska beat us here last year?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the loss to Nebraska this time was probably worse.
Well, I was
because our expectations were higher. But
yes, and we had more at stake.
When New Year's Eve arrived and Indiana came to town, conventional wisdom was, I think almost everybody agreed that if we went 9-9 in the Big Ten, we'd probably get an invite to the NCAA.
True.
Well, we're still positioned, 9-9.
Correct.
Now we have to go to Indiana, which isn't real promising.
And they're going to be mad.
Yes,
yeah, they're going to be mad.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
But we still got a shot at 9-9, and it's not impossible.
Well, we got to start tonight, beating Purdue, and then Illinois and Nebraska.
There's no room left for error.
That's just it, though. We had a little room for error if we'd have picked that Nebraska game off, as we should have.
We could very easily finish the Big Ten with 11, 12 wins.
Yeah.
But we just didn't.
Well, if you think about how many close games, we've lost more close games than anybody in the Big Ten, but can anybody answer this question, guys? I thought Mel Sambasabi played really well in the first half. He's rebounding, blocked shots, didn't score that much, but he was intimidating in the middle. Second half, I thought him not playing might have been the difference.
I don't know. I didn't get to see the second half.
He didn't do much of anything. Well, I didn't get to see any of it.
He didn't play much.
Gave up in frustration. I couldn't get
that surprised me a bit.
So I was listening too, but he didn't contribute much of anything. Oglesby didn't contribute anything.
But he's a good practice player, Pat.
He didn't contribute a whole lot.
No, nobody really did. Devin Marble down the stretch was our go-to guy, and he kept it close. Yeah. And I think Aaron White, honestly, I tried, it was really the perfect storm, that game. It literally got called off by a snowstorm, and then no TV, and if you were savvy enough, you could get on the computer or your phone and watch it. And I tried for the first half, and it was real choppy. It was like watching a silent movie, if you will, with the real choppy video. And then it just froze up and went away, so I listened on the radio. And it was not one of Gary Dolphin's best called games either. Thank goodness for Bobby Hansen.
I agree.
Yeah, he kept me informed.
Yeah.
But boy, this one I think was probably the worst loss of the Fran era.
Nobody enjoyed it.
No. Nobody enjoyed it at all except the Nebraska fans. I think there were a lot of Iowa fans there.
It sounded like it on the radio.
Probably Western Iowa.
Yeah.
Well, did you listen to McCaffrey afterwards?
I couldn't bear to.
Post-game, he was upset. And he punches on his comments about, that the players just didn't step up, and really no excuse for losing that game.
Yeah.
And, he didn't call out anybody individually, of course, but I got to believe they're going to come out just ready to play tonight against Purdue.
You know they will. We've seen it before this year and in past seasons under Fran. They'll be ready to defend the home court, and they're going to want to get a little retribution on Purdue. This is not a good team. They've got a losing record. They beat us in West Lafayette again.
And shouldn't have.
That's right. We had the lead. We had the game. We frittered it away.
In overtime. Aaron White was a bit upset, too. He got the player of the game for the Hawkeyes, and, they were talking about, next year and, all this and that. And he said, I'm basically kind of tired of the excuses, and we're a young team and all of that stuff. He said, these games get away. You know,
right.
that young team thing, for him as a player, as a sophomore, you could tell it doesn't sit well with him. So they're pretty upset with the way things are turning out here. So I'm sure they're more upset, and the coaching staff and the players, than even we are, for sure.
How many games do we have left?
4.
Yeah.
We've got
Counting tonight, Murray.
tonight with Purdue, at Indiana on Saturday, and that is at 2 o'clock.
6:30.
So, I'm sorry, 6:30 p.m. Tom Kennefic's funeral's at 2 o'clock. Saturday at 2 o'clock. Both games tonight and Saturday will be on the Big Ten Network. I couldn't, even in the first half, when I was able to watch the video, I couldn't believe how many close shots the Hawkeyes missed. And they still built a 19-point lead, which gave me comfort, but I thought, man, this is just a good game. And then it all just kind of came together, like I said, in that perfect storm in the second half.
One of the things that was really odd about the game is Nebraska only used 5 players in the second half.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the guy that we talked about last week, Mr. Widebody, only played 2 or 3 minutes in the whole game.
I wondered where
They
he
didn't
was.
use him at all in the second half.
Was he too slow, I wonder?
Yeah.
And they only have
That's
7 or
my
8
guess.
players.
We beat him down the court in the first half, and Tim Miles pulled him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we run well.
I can't wait for them to come back to Carver Hawkeye. That's the last game of the regular season at home. We still have Illinois at home.
Yeah, we have 3 at home, don't we?
Yeah.
3 out of the last 4 at home.
We got some good home games starting tonight.
Got to win them all.
Got to win them all at home.
Yeah, we do.
Who knows? They might be able to pull a Minnesota and beat
I
Indiana.
mean, it's possible we could win them all. It's possible we beat Indiana, but it's not very likely.
No,
Well, I think
Down there,
not after last night.
when this team plays well,
Big Ten.
they can beat anybody.
I agree. When they click, when Oglesby,
Well, he's due. He's due.
I would say
Okay?
he's due.
Yeah, I'm
he's
getting
built
tired
up
of hearing
enough due
he's
for
a
all
great
of next
practice
year.
player. Well, you know, that's great, but let's see it come through when it really counts.
here's what I don't understand. 3 games prior to the Nebraska game, Iowa won, and Oglesby hardly played. Now, I don't know.
But he was contributing even though he wasn't making shots.
Right.
Playing great defense.
Good defense.
Good
Passing
passes.
well.
But he didn't play much. And we won those 3 games. He played an awful lot against Nebraska, and I don't understand why.
Well, here's my theory. I mean, our weakness all year has been scoring from the outside.
You go.
And Fran keeps hoping. The
Yeah.
fabulous shooting that we keep hearing about in practice, Fran keeps hoping it's going to show up. And it never does.
I keep
And
hoping
here
my
we are
kids are going to eat.
27 games later. I mean,
Yeah.
You keep hoping
Come
they're
on.
going to eat broccoli, but they
Yeah,
never do.
I keep hoping my kids will eat
Yeah.
vegetables, and they
Yeah.
just won't.
I always wanted my kids to be, straight A students
Yeah.
too, but it didn't happen.
At some point, I'm just going to quit putting broccoli on their plates.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to eat it. I hate to waste,
That's right.
and it's expensive.
Plus, it stinks up the house.
And it stinks up the house while you're cooking and after you've eaten it.
Well, that's also why I think Peter Jock has a chance to log some minutes next year,
Oh, yeah.
because he can shoot.
And Utah.
And
Oh,
Utah.
yeah.
But, I mean, next year, we keep talking about the 10-man rotation, and Fran said,
Oh, man.
oh, I feel bad that it's only 10, because he thinks Ingram and Stowe are getting playing time.
But
well,
do you
next
think
year
that's
it's
part of the
gonna-
problem, Pat?
I don't, Bob. I mean, I think he really has done a good job of
Okay.
managing the rotation, getting people in, and he's got people who are about equal in talent and contribution. I think he's done a really good job of getting the right people on the court at the right time.
And I'm not
so far,
disagreeing with
it'll
that.
be interesting to see what happens in the off season. If there's, I mean, it's not going to come as a shock if there's a defection.
Do you think our center really has played?
No,
I don't either.
he's been a
You talking about Woodbury?
Woodbury.
Yes.
In one respect, I think he's doing well. He's our second leading rebounder, but he only played at Nebraska, was it 9 minutes? And
More like 5.
Dumb fouls.
I think it's fair to say he's a disappointment, but
I do too.
I think it's also accurate to say probably a disappointment because we had too high of expectations.
Fran kind of warned us about
And he's not Cody Zeller.
Not even close.
And never will be.
No.
Yeah.
But he'll be a better Big Ten center than, say, Jared Rayner was. And he'll probably score, by the time he's a senior, I'll be surprised if he's not scoring between 10 and 15 points a game and leading, pretty close to leading the league in rebounding.
My only disappointment with Woodbury doesn't play offense like a 7'1" center. I think his arms are a little short for his length. I think his hands are a little small for his size.
Can't jump.
He cannot get off the floor.
That's amazing.
You know, he's never had to. Never had to, for one thing. Whether it's that he just never learned to jump or can't.
And no, he's a nice guy.
I'm sure. And he's a competitor. You can see on his face he's a heck of a competitor. Yeah, but I think he bounded well.
Yes. I think he passes well, outlet passes well.
He passed quite well.
I want to see him slam the ball when he's close and quit trying to put it off the board, or and I don't want him to quit shooting the little hook shot because he's got a nice left or right-handed. That's one of the real benefits that he has. Is he's really pretty ambidextrous,
and that's unusual for a 7-foot guy.
Yeah.
Well, he's come into the league at a time almost every team we play has got a big man who's either comparable in size or who can jump.
I think Payne's the equal of
who?
Payne for Michigan State. What's his name?
Oh yeah, Payne.
Yeah.
Is it Payne?
He's a good center.
Yeah. He's a big guy.
Purdue's got a 7-footer
who doesn't start anymore, by the way.
Right.
They put him on the bench, and
well,
Fran is stuck with Woodbury as a starter, which I think is just coaching technique to keep telling him that he's the future of the team.
I wondered.
Confidence thing.
Yeah.
You know, but one thing this staff will do, we'll see a better center next year because these guys can coach, I think. And I think they're, they can pick out the shortcomings of each and every player and work on them, and they'll be better at that next year. Let's think about how Masabi's a better foul shooter, and
he is,
for example, and
developed a 10-15-foot shot that he didn't have before.
He's a better shooter, and they've been working on that. And Marble, he's a better outside shooter than he was, except for a couple of hot games last year. But, you see improvement from each and every player, and I think these guys will get it done with Woodbury. But I agree with you. I mean, a guy that size, Dirk, they have to be more forceful around the basket.
Impose your will.
It's kind of like sometimes Aaron White, he goes for the dunk, or Eric, you don't get in their way if they're going to the basket,
I think White has a tendency to get a little moody, which I hope he'll get over. But Bob, one of the things you said was that these guys can coach. One exhibit is Basabi, who's playing less and playing with a much better attitude. He just hustles and works. Last year, he was just going through the motions, playing a lot more. And they got him to play with more energy, more enthusiasm, stronger.
Got a little weight off him.
Well, that too.
And I think part of it is that they put better players around Melson Basabi.
Very true.
Well, we have better players. There's no question. This is
a little less pressure on.
We've got better players than we did when Fran came.
Well, these guys can recruit and they work hard at it. We've certainly seen that, and we're going to have some great additions to the team next year.
Yeah.
But I just feel bad that they've just had so much trouble closing.
Yep. That's a sign of a young team.
Yeah.
A team with inexperience in those kind of situations. I think Woodbury's interview in the Press Citizen yesterday, I believe, he said it's a big step up because every team you play not only is as competitive or more, but they've got a big man just like him.
Yeah.
Pat said it earlier.
Yeah.
Pretty much every team's got a big man like Woodbury. If they're not 7 foot, they're 6'11" or 6'10".
Well, and there's so much talent in the Big Ten. I mean, there's a lot of good teams.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching. Now, speaking of that, go ahead, Pat.
Well, I was going to say, The Big Ten is so good that I think we're going to end up getting fewer teams in the NCAA than probably deserve to be there because we beat each other up.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Look at the Big 12. You know, Iowa State is pretty much a shoo-in for the NCAA. Pretty much. And then we do have to mention the Iowa State-Kansas game.
Oh.
Unbelievable.
That was a really good game to watch.
Iowa State won it, and the referees took it away from them.
And how they came to those decisions.
I didn't see it. What happened?
Well, at the very end of the game, Kansas charged, and they didn't make any call. They knocked George Niang down
for Iowa State.
Made the basket. Didn't call anything. It clearly was a charge, but you'd at least have to call something. Then
how much time was left, Pat?
4 seconds.
Oh.
Yeah. Then they called Niang. Niang's sitting on the ground.
Sitting on the ground.
And they call him for a foul, and he doesn't touch anybody. and then State's trying to come up the court, and this is before that happened, a little early, maybe 30, 40 seconds to go. And they call a foul, but they call it on the wrong guy. They should have. It was a foul on Withey, who's their 7-foot center, who should have fouled out at that point.
Yeah.
But they called the foul on the guy who was 4 or 5 feet away. Reminded me of the old Jim Bain call.
Oh yeah. And it's a shame because really well played game, very exciting to watch, lots of action.
Iowa State made 17 three-pointers.
That's unbelievable.
Was the school record.
And what did Kansas make? The one guy for Kansas made 6 or 7 of his own.
Yeah, he did. He was unbelievable.
He was. It was just a great game ruined by poor officiating. But here is what I really admire. The very next morning, Tuesday morning, the Big 12 comes out and says officials made an error and they will be reprimanded.
And
good.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take their. This is Bob Bowlesby.
Yeah.
We'll take into consideration their performance last night in the number of assignments they get the rest of the year. And one of those officials was a Big Ten guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, therein lies part of the problem.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of his name.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, I really admire the Big 12 for saying,
bet.
Okay, when is the last time the Big 10 ever did that?
Don't remember.
I don't know that it's ever happened. They will not come out and criticize the officials or, make note of
One
errors.
thing I noticed that the Big Ten officials didn't say a word
About
the game.
Oh, well, they're not going to ever say anything.
Yeah.
Somebody, I don't know if it was last week or last weekend.
Oh, that's not right.
Somebody, I think it was in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch after another Big 12 game, said that the NCAA needs to step up and have one group of officials for all of the NCAA games. They have to have checks and balances for these officials. It's time because you've got so many different conferences. And we've seen it in football and the problems that come at the end of the season in both different conference refs. And we're going to see it in the NCAA tournament because as soon as the Big Ten gets into the NCAA, they start playing physical. Refs from outside the Big Ten, they're going to whistle these guys and foul them out. And I think that's part of the problem the Big Ten has perennially in the NCAA
we're the
tournament.
roughest conference.
I think it was Bernie Miklasz in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch who said it's time for the NCAA to organize the referees. And the other thing, too, is make them full-time employees, not which is a part-time gig.
That's hard to do with make them full-time employees. You need a lot of them. That's going to drive the cost way up.
Way up.
Yeah. You might get more referees.
As many games as there are. It's really hard to do.
Well,
do you realize that Monday night was the first time Brent Musburger was ever in Hilton Coliseum?
Is that right?
Yes. First time he'd ever been in Hilton Coliseum.
There's a Brent Musburger. There's a pretty funny picture circulating on the internet after the Iowa State-Kansas game. Brent Musburger posed for a picture with an Iowa State student who had a poster, who had a poster of Johnny Manziel, the Texas A&M quarterback's girlfriend. And I guess this has been going on every game that Brent Musburger does right now. Yeah. He's being approached with photos and posters of this model girlfriend of Johnny's.
Yeah.
And he's taking pictures and he's autographing the posters. And so his comments, not only did Brett Musburger's comments during the national championship football game draw a lot of attention and make her an overnight sensation, but now
Miss Alabama.
Is that what she was?
Yeah. The quarterback. What was the quarterback for Alabama's? McCarron. His girlfriend, McCarron, the quarterback for Alabama.
Well, now it's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah. Now it's everywhere.
That was kind of funny.
Well, and I said this before, it really wasn't Brent Musburger's fault. I mean, the producers in the truck are the ones that decide what pictures go on. Speaking of which, one of the points of the Kansas-Iowa State game that's drawn some controversy is same sort of thing. A picture of Hoiberg's wife and I think 7-year-old son who was just crying uncontrollably in the overtime once Kansas got 8-9 points ahead and it was obvious that they were going to win. This child lost it and his mother's trying to comfort him and the ESPN cameras are zeroed in on this poor child.
Yeah.
Oh my.
That was me when my dad's teams lost when I was 7. I was
in your mom's lap.
Probably.
Yeah, I was 17, so his mom's lap.
That was when I lost my games. I cry like that.
But it was fun game to watch.
It was. Yeah. A game that was not fun to watch was the Iowa women's basketball game on Sunday at Nebraska. I'm really starting to dislike Nebraska. Strong.
You know what?
I've disliked them for a long time. I'm really starting.
Now you really have
anybody in the Big Ten you do like?
No, not a
Other
single.
than
they're pretty well dominating the Hawkeyes, aren't they?
No love for any school or team in the Big Ten other than Iowa. That's all there is to it. I admire those fans, the Hawkeye fans, who can pull for other Big Ten teams. I was really torn last night who to pull for, Indiana or Minnesota. In that basketball game, I finally decided my nephew goes to Indiana, I'm going to pull for them.
Well, I had to cheer for Indiana because I knew that Indiana would really be mad if they got beat, and we have to play them next.
You know, that game may have saved Tubby's job.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Is he? I did not realize that.
No, there was a lot of discussion, but
I still think he's on the ropes.
Yeah,
do you really?
Can't get rid of a coach who beat the #1 team in the country.
Well, you know what? He's had some pretty good seasons up there, though, hasn't he?
He's had, I think, some pretty mediocre seasons.
He hasn't had the breakthrough that they thought they were going to have when they hired him.
Yeah, and they were really upset after the loss to Iowa. What did they have, a 16-point lead on us?
We need to keep in mind, we're talking about a 16-point lead at halftime down in Nebraska and then losing, how bizarre that is. But we've been on the other end of that.
That's true. Yeah.
It'd be nice if some other team, when they go to shoot the last shot of regulation, it doesn't go in. Nebraska threw up a prayer. As the shot clock winds down, and again, Dolph and Hansen said it was nothing but a prayer. It was the only chance they had, and it went in.
Well, then there was the one that bounced around at Wisconsin.
There have been
bounced through and put us into overtime.
There have been quite a few of those this year, and I just don't remember the last time. I think Penn State had a chance at a last gasp three-pointer that missed when we played them there. And I don't remember the last time Iowa hit a last chance three-pointer to win a game. I know it's happened. I just can't remember. And, you know, we're due. Maybe we get one of those against
one of these last 4 games.
It'd be nice. Or in the Big Ten tournament. We'll see. But the women.
Yes.
That game, I don't know if that might have been the worst loss of the season. For the I don't know if I worded that properly.
What's happened to Janie Prinny, Pat, the last couple games?
The worst loss of the season was the one to Northwestern here, where the Northwestern player drove the length of the court.
And we watched.
And we played Matador.
Yeah.
She laid it in and won the game.
Yeah.
And we had a big lead in that game.
We had about a 10 or 12 point lead. Yeah. But
That Nebraska game, second half was just unwatchable.
21 turnovers. It's hard to beat anybody when you turn the ball over that much.
I turned it off.
Although,
It got painful.
I mean, again, we're 9 points behind at halftime, and about 7 or 8 minutes into the second half, Melissa Dixon sinks a three-pointer, and we're 1 point behind. And you turn around, and all of a sudden we're down by 10, 15, and
Turnover,
20
poor
at the end of
defense.
the game.
Melissa Dixon, she's really something.
She's got the quickest release I think I've ever seen.
And she's a real spark off the bench.
She just touches it and it's gone.
Yeah.
How tall is she, Pat?
She's not
very.
that tall. I'd say she's 5'8" or 9".
She's not very tall.
And she plays good defense.
She does, and she's just a spark and a spark plug. She comes in because you know something's going to happen.
Sudden energy.
Well, they've had Janie Prinny tied up the last couple of games, haven't they, offensively?
Yeah, they have. They've guarded her well, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that she's a little step slower than she used to be, and has trouble getting around somebody who's right in her face.
Yep.
If she hadn't gotten hurt, Pat, would she have had a chance to be all-time leading scorer at Iowa?
She was on a pace to be the all-time leader. It's probably would have been close. Even as it is, Bob, she's probably going to end up, she's closing in on Ice Edwards, and
Michelle
if she
Edwards.
passes her, I think she's like 40 points away from her to become the 4th all-time leading scorer.
Wow.
She may end up 2nd or 3rd before she's done. She was also on a pace to be our all-time leading three-point scorer, but she won't make that. Lindsay Meter still is like 35 or 40 three-pointers ahead.
Lindsay Meter was just something special.
She was, wasn't she?
Did you see her?
Solon girl.
I think you were there when they had the women letter. When Lindsay came out on the court, she looked like she could still play. They brought the former Hawkeye women's basketball players out, and Lindsay was out there, and I just thought, wow.
Wasn't she going to go to med school? Did she?
She's a dentist.
Okay.
She's a dentist in Des Moines.
Dentist in Des Moines. Didn't know that. Okay.
I'll be darned. Well, it is senior night, and they have Indiana in town. Game's not on TV. And I would encourage everyone to get out for this one last game. You know, there's a pretty good chance that the Hawkeyes aren't going to get invited to their own NCAA regional. There's also a good chance they still might.
They've still got a shot. It's touch and go. We're beginning to wonder if when the doors close and push comes, if you get any consideration because you're hosting the tournament. And as a practical matter, you probably don't unless it's you're so close with somebody else.
Yeah.
As that they can't leave a better team out. And of course, what would make it even more painful is the probability that Iowa State comes here. Iowa State might come here whether we're in the tournament or not, but if we don't make it and Iowa State is down here with several thousand filling up Carver Hawkeye Arena.
What do the Hawkeye women have to do, Pat, do you think, to get into the NCAA?
I think they have to win their last two.
At Northwestern on Sunday.
Tomorrow night, Indiana here. And then at Northwestern Sunday. Then I think they have to win at least a game or two, preferably two in the tournament.
I think two.
Okay.
I think if they get to the tournament semifinals, and the truth is, they could win the Big Ten tournament.
Yep.
There's not they can't beat, and I include Penn State in that. Penn State's very good.
Oh, they're good.
But we could
neutral
beat
court,
it on a neutral court.
Yeah.
That's right.
In Chicago this year, right?
It's Hoffman Estates.
Yeah.
What arena is that?
Oh, I forget the name of the arena. It's
Is it
does
new?
Rosemont sound right?
Well, Rosemont's in Rosemont, Illinois.
Oh, well, that's not it then.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The old Rosemont
Hoffman
Horizon.
Estates is right next to Schaumburg. It's on 90 in the west suburbs.
Well, if you know the answer to that, call Bud Supple's house after midnight tonight.
Now, is the men's tournament, Big Ten tournament, in the United Center?
Yes.
Then?
Yes.
The big arena.
Yeah.
There in Chicago. Okay.
I looked at last night when I was putting the script together for the show, and I could not find what arena it is in Hoffman Estates. Is that the All-State Arena?
I don't know.
Does that ring a bell?
I don't know.
I can't picture it. I know. So get out there if you can tomorrow night. I thought we'd ask Pat to talk a little bit about the 3 seniors on the Hawkeye women's team. It's just not going to be the same without Morgan Johnson and Jamie Prinny in there. And then you've also got Tricia Nesbitt,
right,
the 3rd senior.
It's one of the things about college basketball, any college sports, football too, that you watch these kids go through 4 years of competition, and it's hard to see them leave. But we do have 3 seniors, and Tiara Taylor started with this recruiting class, but she dropped back a year because of one of her ACL injuries. Morgan Johnson has started now 123 games, and I think I'm right in saying that she didn't start her very first college game, and she was probably in the starting lineup by her game and has started ever since. And making that even more amazing is she's been fighting bad knees the whole time.
Tendinitis.
But she's never missed a game.
She guts it out. You can see it.
You can tell that she's days that she's better than others, but she runs the court really well. She is now Iowa's all-time leading shot blocker. She's moved into the top 10 in rebounds, and she's close to the top 10 in scoring.
Wow.
And she's really a great kid.
Yep.
And another thing that happens is, for some reason, it happens more with women's basketball than men's. I'm not sure I understand why. But you also get to know the parents of these kids, and her mom and dad come to every game, which is in and of itself amazing. Morgan's from Platte City, which is over by Kansas City, and her younger sister is on scholarship at Creighton. She's not playing this year because she's had a knee injury, but her folks still make all of the Iowa games and most of the Creighton games.
Wow.
That's a 5-hour drive.
Driving from Platte City. That's a 10-hour round trip. But they're up here even during the week. And one of the interesting backstories is Morgan has passed her mother college basketball player for a smaller school. I forget what it was. So I think down in Missouri or Nebraska. And Morgan's dad actually was on the broadcast team that did some of her mother's games. I think that's how they met. But her mother held a school record for blocks, and Morgan has now got the family record for block shots.
Well, do you know what her plans are next year, Pat?
Well, she was pretty wanting to go to med school. What she talked about wanting to do was be a pediatrician.
She'd be a good
more recently, I've heard her saying she probably wants now to take a year to do some sort of missionary work in Africa or South America before she goes to med school.
Can you see her walking into some African village, big 6'4" or 5" woman, with a big smile? It's her smile that gets me, I think. And
she wears her height proudly. I mean, a lot of young women are sort of bashful, apprehensive about being that big, but she's very proud of her height.
Isn't that great?
It is.
Yeah, I'm going to miss her. She may be, and I'm sure part of this is just the heat of the moment, but she may be my favorite Hawkeye women's player ever, and it goes back to what you talked about. She appears to have joy when she plays.
Yeah.
Love that about her. I love her expressiveness. You've got Jamie Printy, on the other hand, who, for the most part, snarls a lot.
Yeah.
And she's a very pretty woman. She's got a pretty smile when she does, but you just don't see it enough.
She smiles. One of the differences between men's and women's basketball is smiling. You don't ever see Aaron White coming down the court smiling. Sometimes after a dunk, you'll see just a little bit of a smile on a men's player, but the women sort of slapping at each other, pointing at each other, smiling, having a good time.
And with opposition.
Yeah, I don't know, just a difference among men and women.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, she would have been on pace to be Iowa's all-time leading scorer. She's a great outside shooter. Probably could have played point guard, did some play point guard in high school. And she's had a tough year because of the knee. There's even talk about her redshirting, but she didn't want anything to do with that. Not again, a difference between men and women. Not very many women want to redshirt. Thierra Taylor is one of the exceptions we've had, but you very seldom see a freshman come on to a women's team and decide to redshirt even though they don't play. Nicole Smith would be this year's example. She's 6'5". She had a knee injury in high school. She's very, very little.
Yeah.
Would have been a candidate for a red shirt. And I think that's a joint decision between coaches and player. But I first met Jamie when she would have been, I think, a sophomore in high school, and she was on crutches. She just had surgery from the ACL injury, and I thought, my goodness, is this the Jamie Prenty that I've been reading about? Because she just seemed tiny.
Yeah.
And I think she grew a couple inches after that. But she too is a really nice kid.
What's she going to do next?
I don't know. I don't know that she's decided yet. And again, her parents are at every game. Her mom is a nurse at St. Luke's. I'm not sure what her dad does up in Cedar Rapids. And of course, again, part of the backstory is that they live 2 doors away from Lisa Bluter's parents in Marion. So, and Lisa was long gone from the house when Jamie was born and lived there, but she grew up 2 doors down from where Lisa grew up.
Now, how many games did she miss last year, Pat, when she had the knee injury?
Oh, she probably missed the last
It was
10.
February.
It was February. I think she missed the last 8 regular season games, plus the tournament games.
Yeah, so like 10 games would have made a difference in that scoring title.
Well, and at that point, she was averaging pretty close to 20 points a game.
Yeah.
Still light it up.
She can indeed, and she can drive. She has an uncanny ability when she gets free enough to do this, to drive the lane, put the ball up on the backboard or the rim, and have it go in. She just has a fantastic touch.
She's got a nice fingertip roll.
She's the one part of her game that never developed, which Lindsay Meter, we talked about earlier, had, was the pull-up jump shot. Jamie does some of it, but if she could have developed driving the lane, stopping and putting a pull-up jumper up as well as Lindsay, she'd probably been well over 2,000 points. But this year, she's rebounded effectively, and one of the ironies of that is the coaches, when they devised game plans and offenses early in the year, coached Jamie to drop back instead of crashing the boards. She's had 5, 8, 9 rebounds this year, which just indicates a knowledge of the game and the ability to position herself. Her defense has improved. That probably was the weak point of her game. But she's played decent defense this year, except for the end of the Northwestern game.
Yeah.
And
she wasn't the only one.
No, she wasn't. No, she wasn't. The third senior is Tricia Nesbitt, who played on a Ames team, played City High in a state championship game.
I forgot about that.
She was a point guard for Ames, or maybe she won the state championship.
Her senior year?
Her senior year, yeah. That's what
remember.
That's what it was. Because
the year
I'm
after
thinking
City
of the
High.
Kelly Cry team. The year after City High.
Boys and girls both won.
What about Lehman?
What about who?
Lehman for Regina.
Which one, Jenna?
Yes. She got sort of a bad deal.
Yeah. You know, that Regina game was on TV Monday night.
Yes.
And I didn't know it.
I didn't know it either.
Yeah.
9.2 is televising them?
Yeah.
I checked it and it was on.
I had no idea. I knew the semifinals were going to be on.
Yeah.
But I had no idea.
I had Channel 9 tell me it wasn't going to be on. I pointedly asked them, and they sent me a schedule and showed me the ones that would be on. And I went to bed Monday night, and I had the radio on, listening to the game. And I thought, oh, what the heck, I'll just see if it's, and it was, end of the third quarter, start of the fourth quarter, whatever, and I got to watch the end of a heck of a comeback by Regina.
Well, I found out surfing last night. All of a sudden, I'm looking at Waverly Shell Rock and Winterset, and I'm thinking, what? It was Channel 9 televising Waverly Shell Rock because they're in the viewing area, and then I found out they've been doing the whole tournament.
The whole thing.
They're picking up a webcast. Is what it is. I mean, you could see
one camera.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the picture was grainy and occasional interruptions, but it still beats trying to listen on the radio.
Yeah, and I want to talk about high school sports, but I want to learn a little bit more, too, about Tricia Nesbitt.
Yeah.
Well, she's had an injury-plagued career. She fought plantar fasciitis for 2 years.
I got that.
Which severely limited her time. She played a lot as a freshman, very little as a sophomore and junior, and has played but not a lot this year. Great defensive player, but she's just been injury-plagued her whole career.
Yeah.
Plantar fasciitis.
That's when your arches are high and they fall, and it pulls the ligaments away from the bone, and it's very painful.
Very painful if you're just you and I walking down the street, but for a basketball player trying to run down the court, it's just impossible. And the risk is if you try to play on it, it'll fracture, and then you'll be even worse. Similar to Paul Gasol with the Lakers. That's what happened. He had a fractured plantar fasciitis, or plantar fascia this year, and he's missed like 3 or 4 months and is still on crutches.
It doesn't just hurt your feet. It ends up affecting your back, your shoulders, your neck, your hips, your knees, everything, because you compensate.
Yeah, sure.
And you've got such pain in 1 or 2 feet.
Tricia's parents, too, if they live in Ames, her father's a minister in Ames, are here every game. Probably the most interesting backstory relative to Tricia is she's engaged to be married to Jared Cole.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I thought, yeah.
Who played for the Iowa men's team and is now played a year in Iceland, and I think is now in France playing professional basketball.
Yeah. Will these ladies be honored after the game tomorrow night?
They'll be honored after the game. They and their parents will be good to middle of the court. Lisa will have a few words to say to them, and then they'll hand them the microphone, which is always an interesting time.
Yes.
They actually prepare some of this. They coordinate their thank yous so that they get everybody who should be thanked. So there'll be an event after the.
There'll be a few tears.
Oh, yeah.
And that always makes it, when you're doing that after the game, so much more important to win.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's kind of a downer to have senior honors given out after a loss.
Yeah. Now, the women are 17-11 overall and 6-8 in the Big Ten.
6-8 in the Big Ten. So they'd be only 8-8 at best, which would put them in the middle of the pack, which is why we think they need to win a couple games in the tournament. They'll be seeded probably anywhere from 6 to in the tournament.
But they have to win these two to have a shot.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Got to be
But they've got a good chance. They're both beatable teams.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Iowa should be favored.
Indiana's only won twice in the Big Ten. Indiana has a new coach, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. Their coach for several years.
When does the women's basketball game start?
7 o'clock tomorrow night.
7 tomorrow.
I meant the tournament.
Big Ten is Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Week from tomorrow. They play a week ahead of.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
So get out there tomorrow night and support the seniors on senior night and have some fun. You can't beat a good time at a Hawkeye women's basketball game. It's just a blast. My kids love it. We'll be back tomorrow night. Real quickly, Hawkeye wrestlers also had a very terrible weekend up in Minneapolis at the old barn, Williams Arena. It was the National Duels. And the way the format runs is the NCAA invites the top 8 ranked teams.
I was not there. Is that correct?
Yes.
They were there.
Were they?
Wait a minute.
No.
Who?
No, Penn State was not there.
Penn State didn't.
No, Okie State was there, Missouri, Cornell,
So
who's
Penn State
very
must
good.
have turned them down.
Must have, yeah.
Why would they turn them down?
Well, we did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, did we? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Now this year it's at the end of the year instead of before. I think it'd been in like December or January.
Yeah, it's always been in January.
Tom turned him down just because that was not part of what he wanted in building his team toward the season ending.
Well, do these two losses up there to Minnesota and then Missouri, is that good timing for the coaching staff and these wrestlers? Because
it's not good for the wrestlers because it's all about seeding for the Big Ten tournament and the NCAAs. Okay. And we had Derek St. John lose his first match of the season. We had Matt McDonough lose again. We had Ballweg lose his, I think, 4th in a row.
He won one in that streak.
Yeah. We got some guys going in the wrong direction at this time of year for seeding purposes.
Is that okay? Is that because we wrestle more matches than anybody else? I mean, we're like 21-3 or something. And what's Penn State? 10-0, or 10-1, or 10-2, or you know what I mean?
They've wrestled more.
We wrestle a lot more matches, it seems.
I think the Big Ten teams,
dual meets than anybody else.
It's the Cornells and Missouris wrestle as many meets.
Or Penn State.
I thought Penn State had virtually the same.
I don't think they have as many as we do.
No.
But I don't think the number of meets we wrestle is a factor.
Okay.
No. It's head-to-head in rankings through the year.
Yeah.
Derek St. John's going to be fine. I'll tell you, Tony Ramos, if you haven't seen him wrestle, do. Because he is on a roll. This guy is a beast, and he is out to pin every opponent.
And he's undefeated?
He's undefeated, yeah. And
he's ranked number 2, though, right?
Well, because the Ohio State wrestler,
Ohio State.
Stieber,
when they were here, he didn't wrestle.
Logan Stieber.
Yeah.
Logan Stieber. He is the defending national champ at that weight, so he deserves it. And I had Tom Brands.
Because he's not wrestling, he's going to keep his number 1 seed.
Yeah. See, that's it. There you go in a nutshell. A lot of Hawkeye fans suspect Stieber didn't face Ramos here in Carver Hawkeye back in January because they messed with the seeding.
Yes.
But Coach Tom Brands, to his credit, told us after one of the Monday morning quarterbacks,
he said that wasn't true.
He's really hurt. He hasn't wrestled for a month since that night.
Okay.
And so I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But he can't pass up the national championship.
No.
I mean,
no, I don't think so.
if the seeds play out, he'll wrestle Ramos for the national championship.
That's right.
And the Nationals are in Des Moines.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
That's going to be...
Ramos is really tremendous.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
He really is.
He's had a tremendous year.
So, no wrestling this weekend. They're getting ready next weekend for the Big Ten tournament, which will be held in Champaign-Urbana at the Assembly Hall.
Would you want to be in the wrestling room this week?
I'd like to. I'd like to see what they do.
After last weekend, they pushing the boys pretty hard. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, they're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
They beat Cornell Friday night, but didn't wrestle well. Cornell has a couple of top-notch wrestlers at upper weights, and they won decisively. And our other wrestlers, other than Tony Ramos, didn't really fare well.
That wrestles rival. Wait, really, Shell Rock, someplace like that?
Ballweg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't put out.
No, he got tired.
149, right?
Yeah.
Is that where he's at?
No, he's at 141.
141.
That was a year where you shouldn't be getting tired.
Yeah.
No, and it's been that way, Pat, for about 2 weeks now. He has looked less than impressive. And
that would tend to indicate he's having trouble making weight.
Yeah, it would. And Matt McDonough admitted for the first time, that he's struggling making weight. And I don't understand, because at the national duels, when you weigh in on Saturday morning, that's it for the rest of the day.
I know.
You can eat, power up, and he didn't have anything Saturday night against Missouri. Missouri guy was really good.
Let's assume Matt McDonough's walking down the street weight would be 140.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping 15 pounds.
And it's not just 15 pounds. That is a little over 10% of your body weight.
Yeah, that would be a lot. I mean, I'm just making 140 up.
Yeah, but I think that's...
If I had to guess, I would guess if he weren't working out for wrestling, he'd be, I imagine he'd be at 140 pounds.
Well, we talked about, didn't we, a couple weeks ago, guys, that heck do you maintain that for 4 years?
Yeah.
Wrestle at 125.
Very tough. And the position
it's
he's
rare.
in, he can't move up a weight because Ramos is there. They can't afford to make Ramos move farther up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Good luck to the Hawkeye wrestlers. We've got about 5 minutes to wrap a few things up. Wanted to mention that the University of Iowa and Nebraska were both told yesterday by the Big Ten that you will your end of the season football game on the Friday after Thanksgiving forever. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'm not necessarily in favor of it.
I'm still cool to
I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't like football on Fridays unless it's high
reason
school.
for it is television.
Yeah.
Nebraska historically did that, mostly with Colorado.
Oklahoma.
But it's the game he picks up at that hour, that late morning hour on the day after Thanksgiving, and so that's why we do it. I mean, technically they can't say forever at this point because we're only scheduled 2 years out, but the implication is that the Big Ten will continue to schedule Iowa and Nebraska as the last game of the year, even though they haven't put in stone what's going to happen either with the lineup
And it should be Minnesota, Iowa.
The last game?
Wouldn't hurt much.
No.
Well,
That's the way it always was.
that isn't where it's headed.
No, it's not.
No, but that's where it should be.
Now Minnesota's the first game of the Big Ten season.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Well, any of this, guys, this could
Games
all.
to be played in snow and mud and blood.
Hey, fellas, this could all change.
Yes. Well,
With the two new teams
there
coming
will
in.
be some change, but the
Yeah.
implication of this Big Ten release yesterday was they'll keep Iowa and Nebraska as the last game of the season.
No matter what happens.
No matter.
Now that this will be the in fourth years,
Yes.
and so what they've said is we're going to make that a tradition.
Okay.
You can accept it, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of tradition, I learned something when I
It'd be
read
an easier tradition to accept if we beat Nebraska.
That would help.
Yeah, that would
help.
That would help a lot, I think. Yeah.
I learned something new when I read the official release on this announcement. Gary Barta tried to put a positive spin on it and said that this is good for the players because they will get a longer holiday weekend if the game's played on Friday.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I learned that in the series between Iowa and Nebraska, the Cornhuskers hold a 28-12 with 3 ties advantage. I also learned, and I bet none of you guys knew this, that Iowa and Nebraska met 8 consecutive years, 91-98, on Thanksgiving Day.
1891.
1891.
Oh, I was going to say, wait a second.
When I saw those numbers, I thought, we haven't played them that much.
Where the heck was I?
1891 to 98. Now get this.
Okay.
On Thanksgiving Day, and those 8 games were played in either Omaha, not Lincoln, or Council Bluffs, not Iowa
I'll
City.
be darned.
How about that?
Well, I wondered.
That's interesting. So who won? And those what was it?
Don't know.
Must have been Nebraska. They're way ahead in the.
Yeah, either that or that's when we won all our games. I don't know.
So we played them almost 40 times.
Is that right?
No, that was
Played them 43 times.
Yeah.
43
Is that right?
times.
Boy,
Holy
I take it
smokes.
back.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I want to mention the Regina girls and their game against what the
Lawton
heck?
Bronson.
I
Lawton
don't know, some
Bronson.
team I never heard of. But
That was a good team. They had a really good guy on their team who's going to play college ball at Morningside, I believe.
Yeah.
And, Regina was down 19 points late in the third quarter, about when I tuned in on TV. And by golly, they fought back. And
They did.
They play good ball.
They really did. Megan Fackler and Jordan Lehman were 2 of the seniors who just did a heck of a job leading that comeback.
Got
Well, Lehman
beat.
she got hosed.
Yeah.
They called a couple fouls on her that were no fouls at all.
Yeah.
61-57, but it was a good ball game. And let's not forget that the West girls are going to state this week playing.
The West
playing
girls are playing tonight against
Tonight?
Mason City. The boys are playing against Jeff tonight
to get to state.
to get to state.
No, they play tomorrow night.
Okay.
Oh, do they? They
Yeah.
changed it to tomorrow night.
It was postponed from
Last
last
night.
night
Yes.
to Thursday.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Then we might be able to watch that one.
Yeah. Well, West should both be there, both men and women.
It's right during the women's game.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Well, we're out of time, everybody. Pat, it's been a pleasure having you here each and every time, and I look forward to the next time you're on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back next week with a new show. John Murphy's going to join us next week. Until then, I want to thank you for watching every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Channel 18. That is Sports Opinion. We're on every Sunday night at 6 p.m. again on Channel 18. If you don't have cable TV, you can get the show on my Facebook page or at patv.tv. He's going to put those graphics up really quick here.
He says he can't.
There it is.
There it goes.
patv.tv. You can watch us anytime there as well. On behalf of Bob Boyd and Pat and Earl, I'm Dirk, thanking you for watching. And remember, either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks. Get them.
Amen.